Ha! Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be exploring the exciting world of 3D modeling using Blender. But this time I'm not actually going to be doing it alone. I've enlisted the help of an AI assistant called ChatGPT to attempt to guide me through the process of creating an object. The object in this case will be a low poly pine tree, and we'll see how it does. And if I have any questions, then I'll attempt to ask ChatGPT. Overall, I just want to see how well ChatGPT can do while guiding me through a process of using Blender, a very complex software. So let's just get straight into it. Welcome! Okay, so here we are in ChatGPT. And the first thing I do is create an easy to follow guide on how to make a low poly tree. And sure enough, it starts creating the steps needed to actually do it, starting with opening up Blender. So here inside Blender, we will follow the steps, which is Shift A to bring a new add menu and add a plane. Then it wanted me to add a subdivision modifier, which I'm really not so sure what that is all about. It said to give it a more rounded shape. Then it wants me to create the trunk of the tree, so Shift A and add the cylinder. And once I added the cylinder, it says to scale the cylinder to make it thinner and longer. The thing is it didn't really tell me what keys to press in this case, so I was only able to do this because I've used Blender before. And it also never said to delete the cube, so I've just been leaving that here. Then it says that we will use a new technique called extrusion. So it has me go into edit mode, though it never specifies edit mode and just says press the top faces and then E to extrude it. So while it got it partially right, edit mode, that ideally would be what it would need to do if this was for a complete beginner. Then it wants me to create the pine needles, and it ends up doing this with particle hair. Honestly, I was not expecting this technique. It wanted me to add a new plane, and once I did that, it said to scale it down, which I'm not so sure why I needed to scale it down, because in particles, it would actually have that option. Then it says to go to the render dropdown and select the particles I added earlier. I don't think it quite did this all right, as I had to change it to render as object and then select the object that I wanted to be render as. I think that's what it was talking about, though I may not be exactly correct about that. Then it says adjust the number of particles, hair, and density. I also ended up scaling the planes down so they looked a little more like pine needles, because it never specified that as well. Then it just said to color the object, which it told me how to do that, which was pretty good. And with that, it said with these steps, you should now be able to create a low poly pine tree in Blender. Hope this helps. Let me know if you have any questions. Ironic thing is you can actually ask questions. I'm not so sure if that came from a video script or what that was coming from that made ChatGPT actually say that. Well, yeah, I did actually get a working functionality of ChatGPT, and it did show me how to create a low poly pine tree. Sure, it might be kind of weird and not necessarily perfect, but it did it. I then went back and asked it to show me how to delete the default cube, because it didn't tell me how to do that earlier. So when I did that, it gave me a very lengthy explanation, but it still did it. I then decided that with the default cube, instead of actually deleting it, it should turn it into something. So I said how to make a default cube in Blender into a low poly island. When I followed these steps, they were pretty similar to creating the low poly pine tree, which was probably because it is still in the same thread. If I would open up a new thread, I think it would give me a whole different explanation. In fact, it did. As you can see, when I opened this new thread, it actually did give me different instructions. When I followed the island, it did kind of look like an island, but it honestly wasn't very good and was not at all what I was picturing when I said a low poly island. But it still did it, and overall, this ChatGPT thing isn't crazy. It can create essays, it can correct code, it can really do anything I want. And now we know it can actually help me create something in Blender. Sure, it might not be amazing, and I think it would probably be better just to ask how to fix things, but it can do it, and that's just mind-blowing. Hopefully you found this as crazy as I did. I thought it was pretty fun to play around with. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in the next one. Bye!